Picture yourself on a quiet porch, the swing creaking under you, the house behind you still, too still. Your kids have moved out, work's slowing down, and the friends you used to see every week are harder to reach. You're 51, with a lifetime of love, hustle, and dreams, but there's a new kind of quiet creeping in, one you didn't expect. That's where I met Margaret, a woman whose story changed how I see life after 50. Hi, I'm Dr. Thomas, a physician who's spent over 30 years helping folks navigate the ups and downs of aging. Today, I'm sharing Margaret's journey, a story of grit, heart, and the unspoken truths of life after 50. Whether you're in this chapter or cheering on someone who is, this story's for you. So, grab a coffee, settle in, and let's dive into the 5 truths Margaret taught me about thriving after 50. Meeting Margaret, a woman full of fire. It was a sunny spring day in 2009 when Margaret stepped into my clinic. At 51, she had a spark that lit up the room, dark hair streaked with silver, eyes twinkling with mischief, and a slight stiffness she tried to brush off. She clutched a worn leather journal, her symptoms scribbled in neat handwriting. "Doc Thomas," she said with a sly grin, "my knees are kicking up a fuss, but I'm not ready to call it quits." I laughed. Her charm made you feel like old friends. Margaret was a schoolteacher, still shaping young minds with her love for history. She was married to Tom, a quiet carpenter, and a mom to 3 kids who'd just left the nest. Her life was a whirlwind, grading papers, hosting book clubs, cheering at soccer games, but she was a fixer, tackling leaky faucets and classroom chaos with ease. That day, though, I saw something beneath her fire. Her hands trembled as she described her knee pain, and her voice softened when she mentioned her home. "It's quieter now, with the kids gone," she said, almost like she didn't want me to hear. That moment stuck with me. Margaret wasn't just here for her knees. She was facing the subtle shifts that come after 50, the ones nobody warns you about. Her story became a roadmap for courage, and I'm honored to share it with you. Truth 1. The social circle that drifts. Margaret's life used to be a tapestry of people. Picture her dining room on a Sunday night, packed with neighbors laughing over her famous lasagna, the air thick with the smell of garlic bread and red wine. Her book club met every Thursday, debating Jane Austen until the stars came out, their voices bouncing off her cozy living room walls. She was the heart of it all, organizing potlucks, dropping off soup for sick friends, cheering loudest at her kids' games. But by 51, that world was starting to shift. Her best friend, Sarah, moved to Florida for a new job, their daily chats now weekly texts. Her sister, always a quick call away, got busier with grandkids. Even her kids, off at college or starting careers, didn't come home as often. "They love me," Margaret told me, "Dr. Thomas," her voice catching, "but love doesn't fill the empty chairs." That's the first truth of life after 50. Your social circle drifts, not with drama, but with a quiet that sneaks up. Friends move. Family scatters. Colleagues retire. Can you feel that shift? For Margaret, it wasn't just fewer calls, it was losing the people who knew her as the young teacher with big dreams or the mom who baked cookies for the team. "It's like parts of me are fading," she said, staring at her coffee cup, the steam curling up. One day, She brought a photo from her 40th birthday, a backyard barbecue with dozens of faces, kids chasing fireflies, friends toasting her with plastic cups. "Look at this crowd," she said, her smile tinged with sadness. "Now, it's just quieter." That photo hit hard. After 50, connection doesn't just happen, you've got to chase it, and that takes guts. But Margaret didn't let the quiet win. She joined a book club at the community center, even though she felt like the new kid. Everyone knew each other, she laughed, and I was nervous. But she kept showing up, and that's where she met Lisa, a retired nurse with a wicked sense of humor. They bonded over their love of mysteries, swapping dog-eared paperbacks and stories, Lisa's hospital adventures, Margaret's classroom triumphs. Those Thursday nights, filled with laughter and heated debates, brought a spark back to her life. "One friend can make the house feel full again," she told me, her eyes bright. "If you're over 50, you know that craving for connection, that need to be seen." Margaret's courage shows it's never too late to build new ties, even if it means stepping out of your comfort zone. A single laugh can light up your world. Truth 2, a body that starts to protest. As Margaret fought to keep her world vibrant, her body started pushing back. Her knee pain, once a minor annoyance, became a daily grind, like a nagging alarm she couldn't snooze. Then came a stumble in her garden, tripping over a hose while planting tulips. She wasn't badly hurt, but the soreness lingered longer than it should have. "I always bounced back," she told me, Dr. Thomas, frustration in her voice. "Now, my body's got other ideas." That's the second truth. After 50, your body starts to protest. Aches creep in. A twist or fall takes longer to shake off. For Margaret, it wasn't just the pain, it was the uncertainty. She'd start the day ready to tackle her lesson plans, only to be stopped by a stiff knee or a wave of tiredness. Her garden, her sanctuary where she'd spend hours pruning tulips and roses, the air sweet with spring blooms, became a challenge. Digging was tougher, and carrying her watering can left her winded. "It's like my body's rewriting the rules," she said, half laughing, half sighing, as she brushed dirt off her jeans. "I've seen this with others. Take John, 53, a mechanic who loved hiking. A back flare-up kept him off the trails for months. It's like my body's turning on me," he said. Margaret felt that too. Every limit was a reminder she wasn't the 30-year-old who chased kids around the playground. But she didn't give up. I suggested physical therapy, and though she rolled her eyes, exercises at my age. She showed up every week, determined. She and Tom built raised garden beds, and she swapped her heavy watering can for a lighter one. "I'm not as fast," she said, standing proud among her tulips, "but I'm still growing my flowers." After 50, you don't just want health, you want the freedom to live your way, to garden, hike, or dance at a family party without pain. When your body protests, it's not just physical, it's a blow to your spirit. But Margaret's blooming tulips were proof she was still thriving, adapting one step at a time. Truth 3, the courage to lean on others. One fall, Margaret shared a story that hit me hard. She'd been reaching for a cookbook on a high shelf, standing on tiptoes on a wobbly kitchen chair. She didn't fall, but the near miss shook her. "I'm fine," she told me, Dr. Thomas, but her eyes said she was scared not of falling, but of losing her independence. Margaret had always been the rock, raising 3 kids, supporting Tom through job changes, keeping the family together through late-night homework and teenage drama. Asking for help felt like letting them down. That's the third truth. After 50, you might need help, even if you've always been the helper. It's tough to accept. Margaret started avoiding tasks, skipping heavy grocery runs, leaving a jammed window unfixed because admitting she needed help stung. "I don't want to bother Tom or the kids," she said, her voice low, hands clasped tight. I told her about Ellen, 52, who resisted help until a sprained ankle forced her to lean on her sister. Those visits turned into weekly coffee dates, a new closeness. Margaret nodded, her defenses softening. She took a leap and asked Tom to help with heavier chores, then called her son, David, to pick up groceries sometimes. "I was so nervous," she admitted, but they didn't mind. David started swinging by weekly, the kitchen filling with a clink of coffee cups and laughter. She got a step stool with a handle for the kitchen. "Asking for help doesn't make me weak," she said, smiling wide. "It keeps me in the game." After 50, you want dignity, the ability to live on your terms. Margaret showed that leaning on others isn't giving up, it's choosing strength, connection, and the life you love. Truth 4. Fighting to stay visible. One day, Margaret came in frustrated. At the grocery store, the cashier chatted with her daughter, barely glancing at her, like she wasn't even there. "I'm not invisible," she told me, Dr. Thomas, her voice sharp with defiance. "I've got 51 years of stories, and I'm not done telling them." That's the fourth truth. After 50, the world can start to overlook you. It's not always mean a busy clerk, a colleague eyeing younger staff, but it hurts. Margaret felt it in small ways: neighbors assuming she wasn't up for block parties, parents at school events talking past her like her years of teaching didn't matter. It made her feel like she was fading, her life's work shaping kids, building a community reduced to a shrug. "I've fought too hard to disappear," she said, her jaw set. I shared a story about Mark, 54, who felt ignored at work after a younger team took over. He started mentoring new hires, and soon they sought his advice. Margaret decided to act. She joined a community history project, sharing tales from her teaching days, how she inspired kids to love history, how she fought for better school resources in the 80s. The group, full of younger volunteers, hung on her words, asking for more. One evening, a college student thanked her, saying, "You make history feel alive." "They know my name now," Margaret told me, her eyes gleaming. "And I'm making sure they don't forget it." After 50, you want to know you matter, that your story still carries weight. Margaret's fight to be seen shows you can claim your place through a story, a project, or a bold hello. Truth 5. Redefining purpose amid change. By 53, Margaret faced a new hurdle. With her kids gone and retirement on the horizon, she started looking back on dreams she'd shelved, chances she'd missed. "I wish I'd traveled with Tom more," she told me, Dr. Thomas, her voice soft, eyes on the floor. "I wish I'd taken that art class I always talked about." Those regrets lingered, especially as her days felt emptier without the chaos of parenting or a packed classroom. That's the fifth truth. After 50, regret can creep in if you don't redefine purpose. When roles like parent or teacher shift, it's easy to feel adrift. Margaret's classroom had been her stage for decades. Without it, she wondered what she was here for. Some days, she said, her voice barely above a whisper, I don't know what's next. I told her about Susan, 55, who found joy volunteering at a literacy program, helping kids read. Margaret tried something new. She started journaling for her kids, writing stories of her life, her first day teaching, nervous but thrilled, the night she fell for Tom, dancing under a summer sky. She also volunteered at a local school, reading to kids and sharing history lessons that made their eyes light up. One third grader hugged her after a story, saying, "You're the best teacher ever." It's not much, Margaret said, but her smile glowed, brighter than I'd seen in years. Those moments gave her a new spark, a reason to get up. After 50, you want meaning, a sense that your days count. Margaret's journal and school visits showed purpose lives in small acts, turning regret into hope. Closing, Margaret's light and your journey. Uplifting music swells, warm and hopeful. Visual, Margaret's garden in full bloom, her book club laughing, a family hug, her porch swing swaying gently. Margaret's journey wasn't always easy. There were days when the quiet stung, when her body slowed her down, when she felt unseen or lost in what-ifs. But she kept choosing to laugh with Lisa over a mystery novel, to share coffee with David, to tell her stories, to write one more page for her kids. By 53, she hosted a book club party at her house, her dining room alive with chatter, the smell of fresh-baked cookies filling the air. That night, she wasn't just Margaret the teacher, she was Margaret, the woman who refused to fade, whose heart still lit up every room. Her story hit me hard, Dr. Thomas, because it's not just hers, it's yours, mine, ours. After 50, we all face those quiet moments, those aches, those questions. Am I still enough? Do I still matter? Margaret's answer was a resounding yes, and it's a reminder for you, too. You're not alone in the stillness, the doubts, or the dreams you're still chasing. You want a life that's full, connected, and true to who you are, and you can build it, just like she did, one brave choice at a time. So, let's make a choice together right now. What's one step you can take to light up your life after 50? Maybe it's calling an old friend, signing up for that class you've always wanted, or sharing a story that's been waiting to be told. Drop it in the comments. I read every one, and I can't wait to hear your story. You're part of this community, and we're here to lift each other up. If Margaret's journey touched you, hit that subscribe button and ring the bell. We're sharing stories like hers every week, stories that inspire, comfort, and show you what's possible after 50. Don't miss our next video, 5 ways to rediscover purpose after 50. It's packed with practical tips to spark your next chapter, and it's waiting for you in the description below. Click it now, and let's keep this journey going together. Thank you for being here, for sharing this moment with Margaret and me. You're not just watching, you're shining, and I'll see you in the next video.